A new commitment is in, and there's about a dozen recruits coming to campus, maybe to produce a few more commitments for the Pitt football 2024 recruiting class. We're breaking all of that down and more on today's Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. All right, welcome to the Thursday edition of the Morning Pitt here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com. You see the website below, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com, the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. You find it all at Panther-Lair.com. And, of course, message boards to interact with hundreds and thousands of other Pitt fans. You know the spiel. I give it to you every day, and I wouldn't have to say it if you would just go subscribe to the website. That's what I always say, that, look, all these things I tell you about Panther-Lair.com, all these things I tell you about our YouTube channel, all these things I ask you to do, the call to action, I wouldn't have to say it if you would just do the action. So go check out Panther-Lair.com. And before you go, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, where we post exclusive Pitt video content almost every day, Monday through Friday at the very least, and sometimes on the weekends. Certainly during the season, we do the post-game videos on the weekends. But we get our daily Morning Pitt videos every day, Monday through Friday. We get the live show like we did last night, the live Panther-Lair show at 8:30 p.m. every Wednesday night with our friend Jim Hammett from Panther-Lair.com, talking with you about everything going on in the world of Pitt sports. So there's a lot happening here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You want to make sure you don't miss any of it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe button is right down there. You should be able to find it rather easily. And the like button doesn't cost you anything. I know you don't get any targeted advertising or anything just by clicking the, I don't think. I shouldn't say that definitively. I think they find unique ways to advertise on the internet and track your activity. But seriously, just click the like button down there. And I would really appreciate it. We get a lot more views than likes, so that either means that like 90% of you don't like these videos even though you're watching it, or it just means that you're not pushing the button. So click the thumbs up, and let's move on to talking about Pitt recruiting. Commitment yesterday. New commitment announced. It was Mason Lindsay, an offensive tackle prospect from DeMatha in Maryland. Well-known football factory, long history of producing Division I prospects at DeMatha, and one of the latest, certainly not the only one in the class of 2024, but one that has definitely shown interest in Pitt is Mason Lindsay, an offensive tackle, about 6'6", 305 pounds, and he announced his commitment to Pitt yesterday. Took his official visit over the weekend, Thursday to Saturday. I think he actually made the call to the Pitt coaches on Monday morning, got home, thought about it for a couple days and decided to make the call Monday morning to make his commitment. Then finally, and the Pat Narduzzi tweet came out and all those kinds of things. And then finally on Wednesday, he announced it. Yesterday afternoon, right around 3 o'clock, he announced his commitment. That's announced commitment number 14 for the recruiting class, which currently has 16 recruits in the class. As of Lindsay's commitment, Pitt's recruiting class ranked number 18 nationally. There's a lot of movement in those national team recruiting rankings. Pitt was 17 before Lindsay committed. They've dropped to 18, or maybe they climbed back up. I didn't see kind of what happened. But, you have schools jumping all over the place, moving up, moving down. Pitt is one spot. Pitt at 18 right now is one spot behind Alabama, who's number 17, but Alabama has 8 commitments, and Pitt has 14 announced commitments. Of course, Alabama's 8 commitments include 1 5-star and 6 4-stars. Pitt's 14 commitments include 2 4-stars. Now, we can make a case that number should change. There should be more 4-star prospects among the group that is already committed, and maybe even among some of the recruits that they're going to add over the next few weeks. Some should be 4-stars, and I think there's a case to be made for that. We'll have those debates and arguments plenty of times over the summer and into the fall leading up to and through signing day. But for now, Pitt's got a top 20 recruiting class based largely on volume, but it's a good recruiting class. It's one that I think has a lot of upside, and I think as a few more names get added in here and fill out this class, it's going to keep looking better and better. We'll have plenty of time to sort of reevaluate the class and ascertain where everything stands and what we make of this class and what they need. I think once we get to the end of June, we'll be able to really take a bigger picture view of it once the dust at least settles a little bit. For now, there's still a lot of moving parts. There's still 2 unannounced commitments. And by the time you watch this video, one of them might be announced. Who knows? I don't know what the timeline is for those other 2 recruits to announce their commitments to Pitt. They've made the commitment. We'll find out how long it is until they announce it. Nevertheless, Pitt, with Mason Lindsay, now has 3 offensive linemen who have publicly announced their commitments to the Panthers. Adam Abaraya from Exton, PA. Forget what school he goes to. I should click on that. Downingtown East. That's right. And then Giovanni Cooley from Erie Cathedral Prep, both committed earlier. They were part of that real rush in March. Cooley announced on March 25th. Abaraya announced on March 28th. And they were part of that surge of commitments that Pitt got in March. You add Mason Lindsay to the group, and Pitt now has 3 offensive linemen committed in this class. Make it if they stopped right there, that would make it the second consecutive recruiting class with 3 offensive linemen. Or they would go back to back with 3. But I don't think they're going to stop right there. I expect Pitt to take 1 more offensive lineman. I wouldn't be surprised if the right guy or guys wants to commit, they would take 5. But I think they'd be content. I think the staff would be content to sit with 4 offensive linemen in this 2024 recruiting class. If it ends up being these 3 guys plus, someone like Caleb Holmes who visited over the weekend. There's a few more guys who are scheduled to visit and looking to visit this month. I think they have a chance to get a really good offensive line recruiting class with the 3 guys who are already committed. Really, with the first 2, with Abaraya and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. I should probably ask him so I don't mess that up anymore. But between him, Cooley, and the 4th commitment, whoever that other offensive line commitment they get, Lindsey's an interesting guy to me, though. He didn't play his junior season due to, I believe it was an ACL tear. And it's interesting to me that the Pitt coaches are sold on him enough to take his commitment now as a first visit weekend priority, as a commitment with really dwindling spots. Pat Narduzzi told Mason Lindsay that there were only 2 spots left for offensive linemen in the class. So to take Lindsay and, for one of the final 2 spots and leave room for just 1 more offensive lineman, they must be sold on his potential and his ability to rebound from that injury. He's been cleared for a while. He's done work in the spring, and he's been able to go to, I think he did some camps or some spring evaluation workouts. But clearly taking his commitment now points to how sold Dave Borbely and Pat Narduzzi and Frank Signetti and the whole group, how sold they are on him. So we'll see what happens with that 4th, potentially final offensive line spot in the class. For now, it's filling up. And you're seeing this at a couple different positions where I don't know if they're full at any spot yet. I don't know if there's one spot where you say, nope, they're not going to take anybody else. Maybe defensive. I was going to say maybe defensive end or defensive tackle, maybe. But even there, I think they've got some guys, either guys who are committed or guys who are top targets and potential additions who could potentially play end or tackle and will give them flexibility to take more guys, to add a few more defensive linemen, whether they project as ends or tackles, just because they've got guys who can move around and play both. I don't think they're full at any spot yet. Obviously they don't have a quarterback yet. They have 1 running back, but they're still courting others, so you would think they're open there. They don't have any wide receivers yet. And although there's one coming in this, they have Day Farmer, the 4-star wide receiver from Florida, one of the earliest commitments in the class. He committed on Christmas. I should have known him off the top of my head. But they only have 1. Obviously, they want more than 1 wide receiver in this recruiting class, and they have a very interesting guy coming in this weekend. We'll talk about him in a second. They have 1 tight end committed. They'd probably be good with that if they can stand pat with that 1 tight end. But we know the history with tight ends. We know that they need to refill some numbers there. So if they have an opportunity to get a second one, I think they would do it. Offensive linemen, like we talked about, they've got 3, probably going to stand pat at 4. Defensive linemen, they've got 4 right now. I think they're going to take 1 or 2 more. We'll see how far they want to get with that. Linebackers, they've got 1 in Davin Bruton. I think they want at least 2 more, and I think they've got a chance to land 2 really good ones to fill that out. And then defensive backs, they've got 3 committed, but I could see them taking at least 2 more DBs. We know this staff is never going to shy away from taking a lot of defensive backs and, quite frankly, a lot of defensive linemen, and I don't think anybody's going to argue with them on those points. They've been pretty good at getting both of those positions, as we've talked about quite a few times. So I don't, I see them potentially loading up, and, at some point this recruiting class could have like 5 DBs in the class. I would not be surprised by that in the least. Now, whether all 5 ends up signing with Pitt, that's another story. Things obviously change over the course of the recruiting cycle, but that's kind of how I see it, that they're not full at any position yet. It's very possible they could come out of this weekend as being full with at one position or another, but they're not there yet. And so you kind of have a lot of options still on the board, and there are a lot of guys that could be takes even coming into this recruiting weekend. So let's talk about this official visit weekend. The recruits will start arriving today. They'll stay until Saturday. 48-hour official visit. I think when we look at it, we've got about a dozen guys confirmed. And this is a similar case to last Wednesday or last week's official visit preview episode of the Morning Pitt, where we previewed the visits and talked about who they were bringing in and who we had confirmed. And, like 5 hours, 6 hours after, or maybe even as many as 12 hours after we recorded that episode, we confirmed some more names. And so more names are going to be confirmed. Pay attention throughout the day as we confirm guys who are coming in for official visits. But right now we've got about a dozen. Of that dozen, 4 are already committed. Abaraya, who we talked about, the offensive lineman, is coming in for his official visit this weekend. Jules Goff, the running back, is coming in for his official visit this weekend. Jasir Whittington, the longest standing commitment on the list, 4-star defensive tackle out of Philadelphia, is coming in for his official visit. And Francis Brew, 3-star defensive tackle from Ohio, is coming in for his official visit this weekend. So it's a little bit unique from last week. Last week, there were no recruits. Well, Eric Ingerson was the one official visitor who came in already committed to Pitt. But even that, as we talked about on Monday, that was sort of a recruitment situation where they needed to get him solidified with Pitt so he would cancel his planned official visit to Nebraska, which they were able to do. And, now Ingerson seems pretty solid. This week is a little bit different, though, with 4 guys already committed. And you can imagine that those 4 guys are going to be working on some of these other recruiting targets who are going to be visiting this weekend. Some of the names that are most interesting to me, guys you need to be aware of and paying attention to through the weekend. Start with a couple defensive backs, since we were just talking about DBs and the guys they have committed. Coy Beasley and Nigel Maynard. Beasley from Cincinnati, Maynard from Tennessee. These are 2 top defensive back targets for Pitt in the recruiting class of 2024. Beasley is a guy who really could be a 4-star prospect. I think he is on some networks. Rivals, we have him as a high 3-star, and I think he's one of the top DB targets on the board for Pitt. Could play corner, could play safety. I think the Pitt coaches like him a little bit more as a safety, but we've seen them show a lot of interest in being flexible with a lot of these guys. Bring him in, start him at corner, move him to safety, start him at safety, move him to corner, whatever works. You find a spot where they can fit. Beasley, really good defensive back prospect. He's been to Pitt multiple times. He was here for the West Virginia game last September. He came for a spring unofficial visit, and he'll be back for an official visit this weekend starting today. And it's his first official visit of the summer. Key thing with Beasley, he's only got 2 other official visits planned, Wisconsin and Purdue. It's pretty safe to assume that those are his 3 top schools, Pitt, Wisconsin, and Purdue. Can Pitt beat the Big Ten for Coy Beasley? That's a good question. Best case scenario, as always, is that they convince him to like Pitt so much this weekend that he just cancels those other visits and never goes and sees those other schools, and he's 100% solid with Pitt. That would be ideal. Not sure if it's going to happen. Nigel Maynard is a similar situation. This is his first official visit, and he's got 1 other official visit scheduled, and that's a trip to Michigan in a couple weeks. Pretty safe to deduce then that those are his top 2 schools, Pitt and Michigan. Beating Michigan is not an easy task, it's particularly for a priority target for the Michigan coaches. But Pitt's got Maynard in here. He came in for an unofficial visit in the spring like Beasley did, and coming back for his first official visit. There's legitimate interest there with both of these guys, despite the fact that they've got good offers and they're really good recruits and sort of top-rated prospects in their areas, at their positions, and nationally. I think defensive back and defensive line are 2 spots where Pitt has been able to and should be able to recruit well off the success that they've had with individual performances and NFL draft performances and guys going to the league. They've sent a bunch of DBs to the league in recent years. They've sent a bunch of defensive linemen to the league in recent years. Those guys have gone and have had successful careers in the NFL in recent years. That has to resonate. Or at least it's a big selling point for the Pitt staff. And the photo just came up there where, you've got Jordan Whitehead and Dane Jackson. You have DeMar Hamlin, obviously. You've got, Damari Mathis is out there playing. Avonte Maddox is out there playing. And these guys are all defensive backs in the NFL who claim Pitt, guys that Pitt claims, and all of them played at least a season or 2 under Pat Narduzzi and this coaching staff. So And the trend should continue, with a guy like MJ Devonshire, a guy like Marquez Williams or AJ Woods. I mean, like, some of these guys, Devonshire at the very least should get an opportunity at the next level. And I wouldn't be surprised if Williams and or Woods do as well. So you're starting to resonate. So, I think there was a time where if you were going against Wisconsin and Purdue for a defensive back, you'd be a little concerned. If you were going against Michigan for a defensive back, you'd probably write him off, and say, well, if Michigan really wants him, Pitt's not going to get him. I don't think that's the case anymore. Pitt may or may not get Coy Beasley and Nigel Maynard, but I don't think it's the sure thing lock that they're going to lose because they're going up against Big Ten programs or because they're going up against Wisconsin or they're going up against Purdue or Michigan. It's not a sure thing lock that they're going to lose those guys. I think Pitt's got a lot to sell from the success of sending guys to the NFL, the success of the program overall, the way defensive backs are able to play in this defense. I've often felt, I'm not a defensive recruit, but I've often felt that if you were a DB, a D lineman, and maybe even a linebacker, I mean, just from my perch up in the press box, it looks like it would probably be an attractive defense to play in. It's a defense where you're really going to show whether or not you can play. Because you're a corner. I mean, if you're a corner, and we've talked about this for 8 years now, if you're a corner in this defense, you have nowhere to hide. You either can play or you can't, and it's going to show up one way or the other, whichever it is. Whether you can play or you can't, it's going to show up on the field. And so this defense, I think, gives those defensive players, really 1 through 11, front to back, gives them a chance to make plays and show what they can do. And a lot of guys, even dating back to the Michigan State days, a lot of guys have parlayed that into NFL careers. Maybe better than they would have in other defenses. And I'm not out here trying to recruit for Pitt, but I think the proof is there. I mean, you can see the success that they've had, and we all watch the defense and see what the defense asks these guys to do. It's an opportunity to make plays. It's an opportunity to show what you can do pretty much every snap. And I think that's got to be appealing for defensive back recruits and D-line recruits in particular. And this weekend, that means, particularly Coy Beasley and Nigel Maynard among the DBs. Another guy I'm really interested in this weekend is Cameron Montero. He's from Brockton, Massachusetts. He's a 6'3" athlete and really, really interesting official visitor coming in. He's got an offer from Pitt. He took an official visit to Virginia last week. This is pretty much his only other scheduled official visit right now. He was looking at taking a visit to Kentucky, but that visit got canceled for whatever reason. And Montero's really interesting because when you look at Brockton, Massachusetts high school football and you watch his highlight film, he really did everything. About 1,500 yards of total offense, more than 20 touchdowns. He was like a wildcat quarterback, a running quarterback. He threw some touchdowns. He ran for a lot of touchdowns. He caught passes for touchdowns. He's a do-everything athlete, and he really feels like a situation where the Brockton coaches said, well, he's our best athlete. We have to get the ball in his hands. We have to give him a chance to make plays. And that's what he did. Over and over and over and over and over again, he made plays. And when you look at his film, it's impressive. On the message boards, people have described or compared him to Steve Breston, former Woodland Hills standout who went to Michigan, as being that kind of athlete with that kind of size. Maybe not quite as smooth as Steve Breston was, but still a really good athlete and a really good wide receiver prospect who, the Pitt coaches seem to be prioritizing. He's going to be the only wide receiver taking an official visit this weekend at Pitt. And I think there's going to be some effort made to try to get him into this class. If they're successful in those efforts, I don't think they're going to stop with 2 receivers, with Day Farmer and Cameron Montero. I think they'll try and get another guy or 2, but I think they would really like to add Montero as a kind of a big athlete, a versatile athlete, a playmaking athlete who can really, I think, make a positive impact with this receiving group. And he's an intriguing guy. We've got it linked all over the place on the message boards. We wrote an article about Montero visiting on Tuesday, I think, and it's on the message boards. There are comments, and there's a whole thread about him on there. Go to those threads, those articles, watch the video and read what people are saying about it. It's a fun video to watch because it's a guy who just gets the ball in his hands and makes a lot of plays, scores a lot of touchdowns, and is pretty clearly the best player on the field, the best playmaker on the field for either team in most of the highlight clips that you're going to see. So he's a fun guy to watch, and he'll be here at Pitt from today through Saturday. So that's those are a few guys to keep an eye on. We have a full official visit preview at Panther-Lair.com. You can check out today. So head over there, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. And we've been keeping you up to date on all of the recruiting news on the message boards and on the articles and all those things at Panther-Lair.com. So if you're a Pitt fan trying to keep up with everything, you want to find out what's going on, go to Pittsburgh.rivals.com, Panther-Lair.com. You get all the best coverage of Pitt sports. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate it and appreciate everybody who's been watching the videos all week. Still hoping to put it together for something cool tomorrow. We've got something planned, still working on it. Hopefully it comes together, and I think you'll enjoy it if it does. But thanks for your time today. I appreciate you watching the video. You have a great Thursday. Hope your week has been great so far. And we're all heading into Friday. Looking forward to it tomorrow. So thanks for watching the video. Make sure you check out the site, and we will talk to you tomorrow morning for the Morning Pit right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.